Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is Shot Science Overtime. Something that kind of gets misconstrued a lot, but these are the three myths about shooting, and these are just three of them. There's a whole bunch of them.
Oh yeah, there's lots of them.
But these are just three that we want to touch on for you guys. So our first one is, and I know you like to talk about this one every once in a while, so why don't you lay it on?
One of the things that some people teach, and that's fine, it's something that we don't teach and don't try to direct players to do, and that is get your fingers lined up on the seams of the basketball before you shoot. And one of the things that's really interesting about the basketball is that it is round, and so you can take a hold of it most anywhere. The skin is dimpled all over, and so you can get a hold of it anywhere that you want to and have pretty good contact with the basketball. In reality, we don't think you have time to take the ball and then roll the ball in your fingers until you find a seam where you can be comfortable.
So, and these are the seams, you guys, all these black lines.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people will teach you that you want to get your fingers on the seams, or you want to find the seams before you shoot. And, that's a thing from football and stuff too. Like, you got to get your fingers on the seams or you're going to throw the pass.
Yeah.
This is a different situation.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Well, I was just going to say is that, so many people, that's like one of their touchstones for all these things that they teach people. It's like how you kind of get everything situated and you find the seams on the basketball. And, there's people that's what they do. They have conditioned themselves to find that. And that's fine. Sure. But the thing is that you don't need to do that.
No, you don't.
And it's one of those things that it takes more time for you to get your fingers and try to find that spot. And that half second or millisecond that you spend doing that is that millisecond where the defense catches up with you, or you create a hitch in your shot, or something else can go wrong. And one of the biggest teaching points for us is that we like to eliminate all the non-essential things and make your shooting and your shot mechanics as efficient as possible.
Exactly.
Because that makes it quick and it makes it repeatable. Yeah. And those are the two things that you really want to have, because it will make it so you can get your shot off, and it will make it so that you can recreate it every time so it's accurate every time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so don't bother with trying to get your fingers on the seams. If they're on the seams, wonderful. If they're not on the seams, wonderful. Just make sure you got a good grip on the basketball. And one of the things that we like to teach is the fact that you spread that thumb out so you get the ball up off the palm of the hand where you've got better control of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and show that, Casey.
Well, hold on. I want to talk. I'll show you that real quick. So see how it's still touching my finger pads and the area around my palm, but in the middle here, it's not touching my palm.
Right.
And look, I have so much control over it, I can wiggle the ball around.
Well, tell them why they have control.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And then if I get it down, I gotta scrunch in here. The screen's small. If I scrunch in here and I put it on my palm, and even if I have my fingers spread and it's on my palm, I don't have any control. The ball is just gonna pop right out, and I'm squeezing it and I can't keep control of it. And I got big hands, so if I spread my fingers, keep it off my palm, I can wiggle it around, and I got all the control I need.
And why? Because you are taking and controlling the ball with your thumb and your little finger. They oppose one another and allows you to grip the ball with those two fingers. The other fingers don't have a gripping property because they don't have fingers that are opposing them like the thumb and the little finger do.
Sorry, I got something in my throat.
And so one of the things that's really important to remember then is that don't take the time to roll the ball or try and fit it to the seams, because you really don't need it. Modern basketballs are made so well that the dimpled skin on it allows you to get a good grip most anywhere on the surface of the basketball.
Yeah, and a lot of it too is just habit. Like, lots of people get into the habit of doing things like that because especially when you are sitting there and you're learning how to shoot, and maybe somebody told you that, or maybe it's just one of those things that you started doing. If you line it up and you take your time, yeah, sure, that feels good to get it on the seams.
Right.
But if you get in the habit of doing that and then you start doing game speed and you need to do that, then that becomes a problem, because you have that millisecond or half a second where you're trying to find that spot on the ball. And it's another thing you need to think about, another thing you need to kind of make as part of your routine, non-essential. And so you should be able to grab the ball no matter how it comes into your hands. I should be able to shoot like that, and I can. Fingers not in the seams. Catch it like that. Well, fingers are in the seams. I lucked out. Doesn't matter. Finger not in the seams. I should be able to shoot that. And that's really as easy as it can be. Yeah. So you shouldn't worry about getting your fingers in the seams. And if you can avoid it all, conditioning yourself and making it a habit, do that, because it will only help you.
Yeah.
And hopefully that makes sense.
All right. Okay, number 2.
Go ahead.
Okay. Number 2 is get as much rotation or spin on the ball as possible.
And these are myths, remember.
Yeah. And we don't buy into that at all. And here's the reason.
It comes down to physics.
Well, yes, it does. And when we snap our wrists and get that real fast backspin on the basketball, what happens is that you are really creating energy in that basketball. And the faster it spins, the more energy that you've captured in the ball. And then the upshot of it is that when it runs into a solid object like the rim
or the backboard,
either one, that usually that will result in that basketball expending energy. And what expending that energy means that it's going to expend it away from the basket, and that's not what we want. And so what we like to teach is having a nice soft rotation where we just kind of flop finish and the ball comes off fingers 1 and 2, and it slows that rotation down. And what happens when we have that slow rotation, it doesn't have as much energy captured in the ball, and so when it hits the basket or the backboard, it tends to be softly and bounds up. And the thing that keeps it bounding upward, which is really key too, is the fact that you have a nice arc on the shot. And so with a nice arc, slow rotation, you'll find that the ball, when it does hit the rim, which it does more often than not, it will bound up. And it'll be bounding up and staying around the basket.
Yeah, everybody is always wanting to know, what is the secret to shooter's touch or that second chance on your shot? That is 100% what it is. And it comes down to having the arc and having that gentle backspin.
Right.
And having that backspin that is just, on fire. I mean, when people say flick your wrist in their shooting mechanics, that makes us cringe, because we don't want that. We want a relaxed finger flop finish. That flick makes the ball spin super fast. And if you throw a ball that is spinning like that, look, it just hit off my dad's shoulder and it went flying. We don't want that, because as soon as it hits the rim or backboard, it is going to rebound harshly. And we don't want that harsh rebound. We want it to just have a gentle backspin. And so when it hits the rim or the backboard, it just kind of stays around and it kind of bounces up instead of out. Yeah. And that comes from the arc as much as it comes from the backspin too.
Right. And the fact of learning how to relax your wrist when you shoot the basketball is not an easy chore. We usually, with our students, will tell them when we get to that particular element that this is something that you need to work on a lot, and probably it will take you 2 or 3 weeks to get it to the point where you can relax that wrist and still get the shot to get to the basket.
Yep.
Most people feel like that when you relax the wrist, probably what you're going to do is be short on the shot. In the beginning, you tend to be a little bit short. But as you get better with it, what you find is that you get that nice, soft finish off the rim.
Yeah, and it really comes down to that nice, relaxed flop where it flops over your wrist, just like that, and your fingers are very relaxed. Flicking and doing stuff like that is, and I can feel the tension in my arm doing that. That is the best way to get yourself that hyper fast backspin that will make it harder for your shot to go in. Right. And we just think that is one of the biggest mistakes people do. And people love to see that backspin and then have it go through the net, and that's great. If you have that backspin and you don't touch anything, it's fantastic. You get that nice swish sound. But if it hits anything, you're in trouble.
It's going to create a long rebound is what it's going to do.
Yeah, a harsh rebound. I mean, it could bound up, but you don't want it shooting 6 feet in the air. You want it to just kind of just gently, just right there at the rim.
Yeah.
Because we talk about the ball having fingers, and when you have that arc and that gentle backspin, it's going to have fingers and it's going to fall in there. Yeah. And you do want to have some backspin because you want it to kind of stabilize the shot.
That's the finish of your shot.
Yeah.
And you really want to have, the other day somebody wrote me a little note and wanted to know about why do you follow through with the wrist? How come you don't just stop and let it go? Well, because that's just like throwing a baseball. If you throw a baseball and you don't have any wrist follow through, you have no control about where the ball's going to go. and it usually is not going to have any velocity, no speed. But as soon as we finish with that wrist and coming off our first two fingers, whether we're throwing a baseball or shooting a basketball, then we have better control of where it's going to go.
Okay, so number 3.
All right, number 3 is square up.
And,
okay?
and forcing your elbow in.
And forcing the elbow in. Okay.
Well, I have one question for everybody.
Away.
Where is your arm, your shooting arm located? Is it growing out of the center of your chest, or is it growing out off on your shoulder?
Yeah.
If it's growing out of the center of your chest, then you can ignore this myth because this will work for you.
Yeah.
But most of the time, people shoot with one arm or the other, and that your arm is going to be on one side of your body. So in that case, we have to do this.
Yeah. You know, the way our skeleton is arranged for almost, I think, every human being is that if I were to raise my arms in front of me like this, I would find that my elbow on either arm is hanging out of directly up and down, which they call plumb. It's hanging about 10 degrees out of plumb. So that means it's out just a little bit. What happens is that when we take and come up here and we force it in, now everything in the shoulder tightens up. And that's going to make the shot probably less effective. But if we just let it hang naturally, that's pretty good. Now, as soon as the elbow begins to flare out, notice how it turns my shooting hand. And what happens is this, is that the ball typically will come off the last 2 or 3 fingers, and it will always be flat. It's really difficult to get any elevation on the ball if the elbow goes out.
And that's what we call like a crossbow effect.
Yeah.
Because your arm is going out, you're essentially just pushing it.
Yeah, you're just pushing it straight ahead.
And we want to elevate it.
Exactly, but we don't want to tie that thing in really tight either.
And so one of the ways that we are able to do that so that we have that nice ergonomical elbow situation is we have a slight stagger towards our shooting side, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that slight stagger means that your shooting arm, everything will line up. So you have your shooting arm up. That means that your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder, your hip, your knee, and your shooting side foot, all of that stuff lines up. If you're trying to do it completely squared up to the basket, you're going to have to force a lot of stuff in to make that all line up, and you won't really be able to. Yeah. And you have to remember, basketball is basically a one-arm shot. Yeah. It is not two-armed. That assist hand is just there to stabilize in the very initial stages of your shooting mechanics. As soon as you start to elevate, it should start to fall away. And so why would you want to have everything equal? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Because
when you do that, you made this point a while ago, you tend to shoot off shoulders.
Yeah, and that's another bad thing. Because if you're shooting off your shoulder, you're going to, again, have that flat shot.
Yeah.
And so we think, and you can look at a lot of sports, there's going to be a slight stagger to the way that the ball is delivered. Yeah. And so we believe that that's what you want to have too. One of the other key points is that you want to have that stagger established before you start going up into your shooting mechanics.
Yeah, good.
And that means that we don't want to see you turning as you're jumping in the air, because if you're doing that, you're adding another variable, and another part of your efficiency is going to be diminished, and that is not good. We want to have as few moving parts as possible when you deliver the ball, because that makes it repeatable. Repeatability leads to accuracy, and that accuracy is going to be what is, counting the baskets.
Absolutely.
So those are kind of like 3 myths of shooting that we want to clear up. You don't need to have your fingers in the seams, because that's just an unnecessary step. You don't need to put backspin on it that just makes it look like a comet streaking through the air. That is going to make your shot less accurate. And you don't need to square up and shove your elbow in. You kind of want to have that slight stagger and have all of your shooting side stuff lined up.
Well, one of the things that we'll mention just in kind of closing this too is that having your body staggered to the side, you become more stable. What happens is that if you bring your feet around, then you're not as stable forward and backward.
Well, you're in a single plane.
Exactly. And if I turn my feet and my shoulder just a little bit, I become more stable for that.
Yeah, and you can test that too. If you want to stand with your feet squared straight ahead and have somebody kind of give you a shove, you're going to have a lot harder time keeping your balance than if you have that slight stagger and you're in kind of multiple planes instead of that one. Okay. So I think that's going to do it for our 3 myths on shooting. While we were talking, you guys were sending us a bunch of questions that you want answered about basketball. And it can be about anything basketball related: shooting, passing, dribbling, defense, talking to your coach, athletic training, conditioning, vertical jump, whatever it is. Send that stuff to us still, because we want to get as many questions as we can and answer as many as we can. Before we get into it, we're going to have our question of the week, which we ask every week, and that is this.
Where are you from? We want to know where you are visiting us from.
Yeah, because we are sitting here in Santa Cruz, California, which is south of San Francisco, and we want to know where in the world you guys are, and we'll give a few shout-outs to people, but we want to know, are you in Spain? Are you in Lithuania? Are you in somewhere in Asia? Are you in Australia? We want to know, because we want to see where everybody from Team Shot Science is hanging out.
That's great.
We got one from Brecht Bascour, who says hi from Belgium. Awesome. Glad to have you here.
That's great to see you.
Michael Mannon, who's from Sweden. Erica Burton's from Jacksonville, Florida. Nima is from Iran. She's from Tehran.
Yeah.
Ditto is from Yonkers, New York. Awesome. Right. So we'll jump more into some of those in a minute. Let's jump into our questions. If you guys have questions about basketball, please send them to us. Let's see here. Michael Jordan says, from Wilmington, North Carolina, how can I prove to the coach that I'm a coachable player? I've been told I wasn't on varsity summer league because I was uncoachable. Is this somebody playing like they are Michael Jordan? That doesn't seem like a genuine question. Nice try. Let's see. This one is from Lumex, who says, please, can you help me? I'm very large and a bit big, but I want to jump higher, so please give me a few tips to jump higher. We have a whole series of videos that we want to direct you towards that are the vertical jump videos on our channel and the vertical jump handbook, right?
Right.
I mean, that's where we would send you.
If you follow those, you will be successful. That's one of them. The handbook is a 3-month daily program.
Yep. Nathan S. says, where should your guide hand be placed on basketball? Okay.
Oh no, hold on.
I'm gonna ask you for some terminology here.
Okay.
What should we really be calling this other hand?
This other hand we call the assist hand, because that's what it does. It doesn't have any other role than to help us gather the ball up and control it. And once we get to that point, that hand wants to fall away, and we're going to shoot that ball one-handed. Here's the thing that we kind of find is that is the terminology guide makes it seem like it directs the ball where it goes, and it does. What happens is that we find that those players who keep the ball or the hand on the ball too long,
or let it influence it.
Well, what happens is that it tends to cause the ball to go right and to go left. And what we find is that as soon as that hand separates from the basketball, then we find that the shot is going to be much more directive. It's going to go where we want it to do. Want it to go. And
we talked about it a little bit before too, and that is, as soon as that assist hand is on the ball. Wait, you're asking where should it be placed? We have videos on it, but here's what it basically is that you should be able to shoot your shot with your hand, your shooting arm on the ball. It should just be able to shoot it. That's no problem. The assist hand comes in, and it should have a very light touch just right there on the side of the ball. I'm barely touching it. And if I take away my other hand, I'm not even holding it. So it's right there, and then as soon as I start to elevate, it falls away. It has no influence on the shot at all. And if you are keeping it on there as it's going up, it will have an influence, and that's going to be another variable that's going to lower your shooting percentage, because it's not very repeatable. You have extra variables that make it less efficient.
Well, and it causes the ball actually to be inaccurate often.
Yeah, so you can go look at our videos on that, but it should just be placed right directly on the side. We want to see it right here. We don't want to see it over here on top or in front or anywhere behind. We want to have it just a very gentle touch here, and you should be able to take it away and still shoot your shot. That's really the key. Okay, this one is from Alexander LA, who says, whenever they pass me the ball and I'm going for the shot, I always take a look at the ball while it's in my hands before I shoot, and it slows me down so many times, and the defender catches up. Well, here's the thing. Sometimes you guys send us questions, and it's like you've identified the problems. You have to eliminate that now, because you know what the problem is.
Yeah.
If you are looking at the ball before you shoot it, that sounds like something that has become a habit. And that's something that you just need to work on eliminating. And, you start slow. You do the 3 pillars of practice. I mean, that's really the thing that you got to do. You got to start off with just diligent work on your mechanics. And you got to make sure that you're not doing that specific thing and really master that. Then you got to step it up to game speed, game intensity work, where you are doing all of that stuff that you were practicing in the first pillar at game speed, whether that's off the dribble, off the pass, you have somebody working with you, somebody playing defense or visualizing the defense, but just doing it at game speed. And then the third pillar is just getting game experience doing that. And that's where you kind of work with the stuff from the first 2 pillars and make it kind of muscle memory part of your basketball abilities.
Right. And, it probably does kind of take a little bit of extra time for you to get there. But, by having your eyes up, one of the things that we teach people with ball skills is that after you do these different drills for a while, you begin to know where the ball is going to be. You don't really have to look at it. You look it into your hands, and you have a pretty good idea when it's coming to your hands. Then you're going to be able to handle it and go without it, whether it's to shoot, or to dribble or pass.
Yeah, you got to do the work on your own time though, so that you have kind of the confidence in what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're just going out there and just doing stuff during a game, I mean, you will never really kind of get your mechanics where they need to be. So you need to put in the work.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's from Kiboit Boik, I guess. Sorry. I have problems with my jump shot. I shoot from the side of my face somewhat, and it messes up my shot. Would I be able to change my form and set point to the front of my face?
Yeah, you can. And the biggest problem is that most people, even when they realize that they're not doing that the best way, let's say, by having the ball up here in front of, or let's say more in line with your shooting eye, is the fact that you don't want to take the time to make the change. And time probably for making that change is only maybe a week. To getting over here to where you want it to be. And then you reestablish muscle memory for that particular position for the shot, and so it's going to be a lot easier. Okay, that's real important.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm going to excuse myself for a minute.
All right, it really is just one of those things where you have to kind of spend the time on the first pillar of your practice so that you are getting everything situated in terms of your mechanics so that you can kind of step out and really work at them at game speed. All right, this one is from Dylan Bashore, who says, where should my guide hand separate from the ball during my shot? Well, we talked about it a little bit already. And remember, it's not called the guide hand, it's called the assist hand. And that should basically, if you have your set point right here and your assist hand's on the ball, you need to make sure that as soon as you start to elevate, it's okay for it to go for just a split second, but it should really come off as soon as you start to elevate. And if you're letting it stay on any longer, it's going to probably influence your shot by, maybe the thumb is getting involved or something, and that's going to throw off your accuracy. Let's see here. Alrins Antoine says, spin throws me off sometimes. And then Dylan Bashore says, how do I fix the backspin problem? Well, I mean, the spin is one of those things where you have to really work on it, how it comes off of your fingers. So if you're shooting the basketball, this is my shooting hand, when you release the ball, it should come off these 2 fingers last, right like that, because that's going to give you 2 points of contact. You're going to have control of the basketball, and it's going to impart a little bit of that backspin as it comes off. But what you don't want to do is have 1 finger, because if you do that, you can see there's no stability there. It can roll around on that whole thing. If I add that second finger in as it comes off, it's very stable, and that can be all the difference between making your shot go in and just be off by a millimeter or 2. So make sure that when you are releasing the basketball, it's coming off those 2 fingers and a nice gentle flop release, okay? And remember, flop is the key to having that gentle backspin. Okay. This one is from Henrique Miranda, who says, hi, my coach says I should attack the rim more, but instead of settling for pull-ups and step-backs, but I shoot them at a very high percentage. What should I do? Well, okay, I think we talked about this maybe last week, but the thing is that you have to be, and maybe this is what your coach is addressing, is that you have to be a versatile player, kind of somebody that is able to do a little bit of everything. If you are just kind of specializing in one thing, they can take that away from you. So if you're only able to shoot, what will happen is that most teams will scout that and they will know that and they will play you tight so that you can't get your shot off and they force you to do something else. If you invariably can't shoot, then a lot of times they'll play off of you and shut down your ability to attack. So they exploit your weaknesses. And if that's kind of what your coach is getting at, that's something that you should listen to them about a little bit. You know, and the other thing too is that sometimes pull-ups and step backs, those are not the highest percentage shots all the time. If you still have a guy that's on you and you haven't created much space and that's the only way that you're getting the shot off, that's not going to be as high percentage as getting those shots around the rim. You're probably not going to get fouls as easily on your shot, so you're not going to go to the line as much. So if your coach is coming to you from the perspective that they're trying to get you to be a more versatile player, I say stick with that mentality and try to kind of work that into your game. But don't give up on shooting pull-ups and step backs. You just want to really put some effort into becoming a well-rounded player. Okay.
Sorry to leave. There was a knock at the front door, and when I got there, there was a guy there trying to sell a video on shooting. So I had to talk to him for just a moment.
Okay, this one's from Dylan Bashore saying, let's do some shout-outs from where people are. Dylan's from St. Petersburg, Florida. Suko is from the USA. Vitali is from Portland, Oregon. Renzo is from Houston, Texas. Matthew Butcher's from southwestern Ohio.
Lithuania?
Augustus is from Lithuania. Suko is from Killen, Texas. Nathan S. is from Greensboro, North Carolina. Tan is from Singapore. Joseph is from Delaware, but we already knew that, I guess. Henrique is from Portugal. Flying Stars is from Moscow. And Eric says Zilius is from Lithuania, and Arlen's Antoine is from Florida. Cool.
Wow.
Keep sending us where you guys are from. We love to hear it.
Yeah.
And if you guys are in your town and you want to go out there and help us grow Team Shot Science, please tell people to check us out. We really appreciate it. Yeah. Tyreek fake account says, how do I drive to the rack with confidence?
You know, the interesting thing about that is most people, when they are starting to drive the basket, don't have confidence. And what are they afraid of? It's a matter of fear is what it is. And the fear is this: I'm going to have my shot blocked. I'm not going to be able to get there. I'll just look like a fool. And here's what you need to do. Attacking the basket or any of those kind of skills that are involved in basketball take time for you to develop, and you need to go out and really challenge other people. One of the things that we have a young gal that is a junior in high school, and been trying to get her to attack the basket for 2 or 3 years, and she's been real reluctant because she didn't think she can get there. Well, now she's getting there, and what she's doing is she's taking real confidence now, and not only is she getting there, she's executing some counter moves to allow her to get there finishes also. So what does all that boil down to? It boils down to the fact that you need to keep working, and don't be afraid to shoot. Don't be afraid to attack the basket and get your shot up. Worst thing that can happen is that you're going to miss the shot. And you know, nobody makes every shot they shoot. Here's the thing too that's real important is that as you begin to figure out how to use leverage, and that's something that we talk about all the time when our players are that we're teaching, we're trying to help them to attack the basket effectively. We talk about leverage, and leverage is how you use your body against the defender as you attack the basket and try to create a little space to get the shot off. Most of us, when we're shooting in the beginning and attacking the basket, have a tendency to kind of fade away from the defender and not have contact. Today's basketball has a lot of contact in it. And the thing that you need to do is learn to, in fact, we kind of teach this little bump thing where we just give them a little bump right at the basket, and you could just see Casey and I separate right there for just a moment, and that's where I get that shot off. That's leverage.
Well, contact is your friend, because doing just like that little thing that you showed, and you have to be a little, deceptive about it. Yeah. You don't want to look like you're the one initiating, but if you're able to do that kind of stuff, you are knocking that defender off balance too. Yeah. And so, for me, I know you probably agree, is that a lot of basketball is about getting the upper hand in terms of being, being the one that is taking the action and the one that is in recovery. And if you can put the defender into a recovery mode, they are in trouble because they have to make at least one step to be up to where you are. And so if you are putting them off balance, I mean, that's they're in full recovery mode at that point. But if you are letting them dictate what you're doing, then you are at their mercy too.
Right.
So you want to flip that. You always want to be the one that is in control, have them in recovery mode.
Right.
And the other thing that I will say too is that it's very simple. If you don't have confidence in your skills, you will not have confidence in the execution of those skills. And so you have to work 3 pillars of practice, just hammer that in on all of those things every day. And then you will start to get to the point where that stuff will be there for you and you won't even have to really think about it. You'll be more reactionary than anything.
Let's go back for just a moment to leverage. I want to make sure you understand that. Is if I'm driving Casey to the basket, he's trying to take and leverage me away from the basket. Typically, he's trying to leverage me away to the sideline. And at the same time, I'm leaning into him creating leverage with my body. And what happens is that as I get ready to shoot, if you just use this elbow just a little bit and you've already got contact with him, you almost never get called for that. What you get called for is if you let this elbow elevate and they can see that you're using that as a way to, push the guy away. That's when they're going to call you for it. Otherwise, you have to learn how to use your body. In one of the playoff games this year in the NBA, the perfect example of that, and I saw it several times, was from Kyrie Irving. He gets the basket. He's not a really big guy, but you can see him leaning in, and then right at the end, you can just see him give you a little bit and separate.
Okay. And he's not doing any arm swinging or shoulder lowering or anything like that.
He's using leverage, and then right at the end, he'll separate, and that creates space for him to get the shot off.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the ways that, people struggle with, I'm so short, I'm so...
Yeah.
But, check out guys like that. I mean, Kyrie Irving gives up, 8-9 inches on some of these guys, but he still takes them to the basket, and he uses leverage and body positioning and contact to really neutralize and negate the advantages that some of those taller guys might have just because of height.
Now, you don't learn how to do that by just talking about it. You don't learn how to do that by trying it once or twice. It's something you want to do on a regular basis, is try to get into this second pillar that we're talking about, where you're taking this to game speed and having somebody defend you. And then when you go to the third pillar, now that's where you really get to try it out.
Yeah,
and will you be successful in the beginning? Probably not, but if you stay with it, you're going to find that you're going to become more successful, and you will be a load getting to the basket.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, too, is that with anything, especially in sports, you have to remember that if there's no risk, there is no reward. Yeah. So you got to test all this stuff out. Yeah. And you can't be afraid of failure or mistakes, because if you're fearing the failure, you will never go anywhere. Yeah. You got to try out some of this leveraging stuff. Yeah. You got to try out trying to get your shot off in this specific way. If you don't try it out, you will never figure it out.
Yeah, truly.
And, so many people, they want to get it right out of the gate. They don't want to test or try or do any of that. The great players of basketball, even the really good players, they are the ones that they don't care about making a mistake or a failure. And if they do, they only use it as a motivator. They don't use it as a reason, as a reason to kind of, get down on themselves. So no risk, no reward. You got to go out there and make it happen. Nima is asking, hey, coach, is it more accurate to shoot the ball higher or lower arc?
Well, we're great believers in having a higher arc, and I'm not going to take the time to tell you all about it, but I'm going to direct you to our video where we talk about getting more arc on your shot, and it has to do with shooting at a larger target.
Yeah, flat shots are going to give you a harsh rebound again and a smaller target.
And a higher arc is going to give you a much bigger target.
Yeah, but it also gets to a point of diminishing returns too. So there is an optimal kind of arc that you want to get. So check out our video on that. Yeah. Mustafa is asking, what is BEEF? BEEF is an acronym for shooting that some people like to use. We don't like to use that, but that's basically what it is. Yeah. Zorik is asking, is a higher set point better? I'm experimenting with it, and I find that it helps from 3-point range, but not as much from mid. Okay, one of the things I will say is this, is that you don't want to have different shots from different spots. Yeah. And if you are shooting the basketball differently from 5 feet than you do from 25 feet, that is a problem because you can't make it repeatable. You can't shoot the same shot over and over, which will, again, diminish your accuracy.
Right.
So if you like a higher set point, you should work on having that higher set point from everywhere on the floor.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I'll tell you about this is studies have shown that those shots that are taken in the mid-range are more difficult shots to hit. And you hit a smaller percentage of those shots. And you might think, well, I'm closer to the basket. It's be a lot easier. Well, there's a lot of things that come into play that affect the difficulty of it.
Well, one of them is that people don't practice them enough.
Well, that's true. But as soon as you move back, then it becomes a little bit more comfortable. And that's one of the reasons that some people have gone to a basketball offense called the dribble drive. And the dribble drive kind of utilizes this approach. We're going to take and shoot threes, and we're going to be really good at it. And they don't shoot much in the way of mid-range shots at all because they're only worth 2 points. Three-pointers add up really quicker. And then they also want you to get their players to get to the basket and finish where they get an opportunity to shoot a free throw and a make. So you're piling those points up 3 at a time instead of shooting those mid-range where you're only getting 2 at a time.
That is just one approach to basketball.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily ascribe to it necessarily.
You don't have to.
Barry H says, hi from Hawaii.
Hello.
Hey, Barry. Let's see here. Ricardo says, I heard that golf helps you shoot a basketball. That's news to us.
Don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to enlighten us, please let us know.
Yeah.
Erica Burton says, thank you. I'm a fairly new coach. Awesome, Erica.
All right, Erica. Good luck
Yeah.
on your season's coming up.
Let us know if we can help
what's
you.
going on.
Yeah. Let's see here. Ali Mohazeb says, how do I improve my hopping on 1 foot for conditioning from California? Hopping on 1 foot? I'm not sure if that's the way that we would say you should work on your conditioning.
Yeah.
When it comes down to conditioning, we think that the best approach is to do interval training because it's what most closely resembles basketball in terms of your athletic conditioning training.
Yeah.
It's lots of sprints and stops or walks. So instead of endurance training where you're running 6 miles, you are doing a ton of sprints where you're sprinting and stopping or walking, sprinting, stopping or walking, sprinting, stopping or walking. The best example of it is if you're on a track, maybe you sprint the straights, walk or jog the curves.
Right.
And that more closely resembles basketball because basketball is a bunch of stop and go.
It is. And the hopping exercises probably, if your coach is telling you he wants you to do that or she wants you to do that,
maybe
that has to do more with trying to help you maybe
Coordination.
get more spring in your legs for jumping.
Or coordination or something like that. That really depends on what you're talking about, I think. If you're talking about like dot drills or lateral drills or something like that, then, that's a different thing. Yeah. But we have videos like that. If you want to go check out our vertical jump videos, we talk a little bit about that kind of stuff. Okay.
Oh, another Lithuanian person joined us this morning?
Yeah. Let's see. Super Saiyan says, I can't use the finger release. It makes my shot flat. Any tips?
That's not making your shot flat.
Yeah.
What is making your shot flat probably is because of your arm stroke. I don't know if I can really do this, but when we shoot the basketball, we want to elevate the elbow so the elbow finishes higher than our eye. And what typically happens when we finish and have a flat arc is that we tend to pull down. Yeah, we can't pull down. As you are stroking the ball, the arm tends to come down at the end, and that causes a flat shot. And that probably is way more of a problem than the fingers would ever be.
Yeah, your fingers are, that is not imparting any really influence to your arc.
No.
Most of that comes from needing to get more elevation on your shot. So you want to finish with your elbow above your shooting eye. And if it's lower than that, that's going to give you a real flat shot.
It will, and it'll be short and flat.
Josh says, how would I go about stopping my wrists and fingers flicking to the right?
Oh, that's a pretty common thing that happens. In fact, I can remember years ago, and I mean many years ago, when that was really the accepted norm, is that when you finish, they call for pronation of the wrist, where the wrist turns to the outside. And I'm sure that's probably what you're talking about. Well, anything that has to do with shooting or probably any other motor movement that you might be involved in has to do with you putting your mind on it and making sure that you either do it or you don't do it. And there's no other way to get around it. There's not a switch on your back that we could flick and say, okay, now you got that one fixed, okay? So it's important for you to take and remember that you know what the problem is, and they call that pronation of the wrist. This is supination when it goes to the inside. When it goes to the outside, that is called pronation. And in reality, when you shoot a basketball, what you really want to do is you want flexion. You want to flex the fingers and wrist right toward the basketball. Hope that helps.
All right, we have some people that are asking about, how to become better shooters in here, and then there's somebody saying you should watch YouTube videos of your favorite shooting guards and try to imitate how they do it. We completely disagree with that.
Yeah,
if
do.
you are trying to emulate somebody else, you're going to find yourself not really getting optimal form or optimal kind of foundational elements.
Very true.
And the thing is that a lot of these people that are these great players or athletes, they are not, they don't have the same body mechanics as you. They may have learned maybe not the best way to start off with. They maybe learned in their own vacuum. So you don't want to necessarily take stuff from other people like that. What you want to do is start out with these foundational elements and build them for yourself. You want to be the best imitation of yourself, not an imitation of somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And people probably are not. These people probably are not put together the same way that you are. So maybe you're trying to shoot like some guy that's 6'9". Mm-hmm. That's not going to be easy for you to emulate if you're 5'9".
Yeah.
So we think take the foundational elements, and these are all the things that we talk about, whether it's shooting stance, stepping into the shot, having that slight stagger, the finish, the elevation of your shot, whatever it is, all of those foundational elements should be your own. Yeah. Don't watch. I mean, you can watch other people and see what they're doing. That's fine, but don't try to emulate them. Put together your own recipe, right?
Exactly. And in fact, as I'm thinking about these different elements on your shooting stroke, everybody that is really a good shooter has most of the same stroke mechanics, but some of them have little, take for example, Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller had the ball kind of back in here, and it was an ugly situation. You don't want to shoot like him, even though he shot really well. But he was able to do that because he practiced that so much that became his stroke. And there are others who haven't been so successful. What is I can't remember now.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. It could be anybody. I mean, you could have the goofiest form in the world, but if you have put in the effort to make that an accurate form, then you will be able to make that happen.
It'll be your form.
But, well, I'm saying it in a bad way. But the thing is that if you're trying to shorten the length of time it takes for you to become a great shooter, don't try to put together the goofy form or try to put together whatever anybody else is doing as your own, because it will take you that much longer to get there. Start from the foundation, build it up, and you will be there much quicker than if you do it the other way, right?
Yep, sounds good.
Caleb McKnight says, how to be more consistent in shooting.
More consistency in shooting has to do with just spending time on it. And it's spending time with form shooting. And one of the things that we're real big on is form shooting. We have a video on form shooting, and you should check that out. And what it is we want you to get that form so that it is effective for you, and then you move away from the basket a little bit. And as you begin to move away from the basket,
it's a progression.
It's a progression into a little bit longer shots. And then what you want to do is allow that to be at a game speed situation. And because what happens is that we become inconsistent when we add speed. Speed to our shot usually is a real downer unless we have practiced that. And so that's one of the things that's real important in our 3 pillars of practice, is the fact that you kind of learn how to do it. And then the second pillar is going to be, okay, game speed, because that's how the game is played. It's played fast.
Yeah, you don't get time to set up and take your time.
Well, no, and when we're practicing, we're very casual and low speed. But then when we add a defender, we add fatigue, we add speed, suddenly consistency falls off the table.
And here's the other thing too with consistency. That is a major key. The other key is this, is that your shooting mechanics need to be as efficient as possible. Like we said before, the more moving parts, the more variables, the more things you have to go through to get the ball off, the less consistent you will be, because it's not easy to repeat all of that stuff.
Exactly.
So you want your routine and your mechanics to be as streamlined as possible. Yeah. So you don't want to have any cute stuff or hitches or power saps or any of that stuff. You want to have it as smooth as possible. That will make you consistent. Yeah. Jacob is asking, who has the best shooting form in the NBA? There's a lot of great shooters in the NBA.
There really is.
I mean, you go through the regular list of everybody that people name. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kyle Korver before this last year. I mean, there's a ton.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to name just one. But I will say Steph Curry. I mean, he really embodies a lot of the stuff that we talk about.
And Klay Thompson as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And it helps that we are from the Bay Area, so we're big Warriors fans, so deal with it. Let's see here. Aiden is asking, which finger do you release from? Well, we talked about that a little while ago, but if you're shooting the basketball, you want to make sure that the ball is coming off these two fingers last. That's your index and your middle finger. And the reasoning behind that is because if it comes off just one finger, like this finger, a lot of people say, flick that finger. We do not like that. If you look at it, there is no control over this ball because there is one single point of contact. If I add in that second point of contact, that ball is pretty stable.
Yeah.
And so when I release it, it's going to have a much more stable flight, and it's also going to have the right spin on it. If I'm releasing it off of these fingers, it's going to spin sideways. Yeah. And if I'm releasing it off of my thumb, well, that's a whole other nightmare that you don't want to get into. So you want to try to make it these two fingers that you release it off last. Yeah. Let's see. Nima says, I get beat on defense all the time. My coach brings me out for defense and puts me back for offense because I'm a shooter. How should I stop getting beat?
Well, if you're playing defense and you're getting beat all the time, there's a couple things probably that are real problems for you. First of all, you're not getting your butt close enough to the floor. And you don't have to be down dragging it on the floor, but you have to be broken down so that you can move quickly. The second thing is that most players who have difficulty on defense don't move their feet well enough. And one of the biggest problems they have is that when they shuffle step, they allow both feet to come together and then they reach out and come together, reach out. When your feet come really close together in the slide step, what happens is that your body tends to stand up.
Your center of gravity goes up.
Yeah, it does, and you become slower. But if you keep what we called
step drag?
Step and drag, what you're doing is you're stepping one foot out and keeping it close to the floor, and the other foot comes off the floor and drags to the other one. But we have distance between both of the feet, not real close. And so step drag we find is really important. The other thing is we really like to teach our players that we play with a squared up stance. And a squared up stance means that we have both feet squared up to the defender.
You don't want to give them one staggered in front of the other.
Yeah, what happens, and this is something that goes back years and years and years ago, decades probably, is that when you're playing defense on a person who is on the left side of the floor, then you're going to come up and you're going to have your foot that's close to the center of the floor is going to be forward. And what we found is that coaches got smarter and they start attacking that foot. And when they attack that foot, it forces you to rotate your body, and it usually is slower.
And you're in recovery mode.
Exactly. And so by having your feet up there, both kind of in the same line, let's say, or even, I can't get where I can show this, then you haven't got one foot forward they can attack. You've got both feet the same. And then you can step quickly, and usually you can step and force them toward the sideline when they go.
Yeah, and here's another thing that I think is super important too, is that you just need to beat them to the spot. You anticipate where they're going to go and beat them to it. And
good footwork is what that's all about.
Well, defense is all about footwork. But beating them to the spot, they either have to, A, go around you and you just changed up where their attack is going, so you are again in control.
Yeah.
Or B, they plow over you.
Yeah.
And, they get the foul on that. If you've established position in front of them, then they get the foul and you get the ball. So beat them to the spot is the biggest thing you can do. Don't get into the habit of reaching and trying to snake the ball from people, because the simple truth is this, is that most of the time when people steal the ball, it is not because they just stole it from somebody as they were kind of had the ball on them and were dribbling. Typically, balls are stolen when they are passed through the air and somebody picks it off in the air.
Yeah, here's another thought that doesn't get enough reinforcement. And that is this: everybody in the world gets beat on defense. One of the things that happens is when we get beat on defense, we cannot give up at that particular point. And often young players will do that. I'm beat, and so then they turn and they don't even stay with the defender. One of the things that's so important is that if you find the defender is forcing you to turn your body, it's time for now to run to recover. And you're going to take and sprint to a point where you can kind of reestablish your defensive position if you possibly can. But when you get into that situation where you're running right alongside of them, it still can be enough defensive pressure. Maybe you discourage them from getting to a shot. But I think that run to recover is one of the most important elements in defense.
But don't get into the situation where you're in it if you can avoid it.
Yeah,
Beat them to the spot.
Really.
Okay, so let's lightning round this a little bit. We start a little bit late, so we'll lightning round here for a little bit. This one is from Johnny Y, who says, I have my form down, but how do I learn to do it in game speed? Do I do drills where people are guarding me? I mean, that you're basically asking what is the second pillar of practice.
Yeah.
And the basic answer to that is yes. I mean, you up the intensity of it. You try to basically emulate what it is like to be in a game. You play at that speed and at that intensity. Maybe you're throwing yourself a self pass, taking the shot off the pass. Maybe you're attacking off the dribble, going up into the shot. You can ask somebody to play defense on you. You can visualize a defender, but you're doing it all at game speed. And again, it's just one of those things where you have to progress up to that speed. Right?
Right, and that's the key to you being successful. Is because we talked about this a few minutes ago, we spend so much time playing at practice speed where it's very casual. And that's not how the game is played. So you have to take and learn how to play at a higher speed.
Okay, lightning round.
Okay.
Sam Poor says, I have tryouts coming up. Any tips? Go check out our video on how to make the team. That is all you need to know in terms of our perspective and other people's perspective.
Yeah,
We have several videos, one from us and one from Casey Hill, who is the head coach of the Santa Cruz Warriors, the D-League affiliate of the Golden State Warriors. So go check those out. Let's see. Joseph Witcher's asking the same thing. Any tips for tryouts? Go check out how to make the team. Momar Ndaye says, how to know which position to play. 17 years old and 6 feet. Okay. This might not be a lightning round answer, but the basic thing that we would say is this. Don't worry yourself with being a position player. You are never going to be the person that determines that when you're playing on a team.
Exactly.
A coach is going to be the one that says, oh, Momar, you are going to be playing the point guard, or you're going to be playing the shooting guard, whatever. So you should not worry about that. What you should do for yourself is make yourself the most versatile, well-rounded, all-around player that you can possibly be. Be able to play in the post, be able to play on the perimeter, be able to play defense, be able to make free throws, be able to attack, be able to shoot. All of these things, be able to pass, be able to do all these things, and then you will find yourself on a team no matter what.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly right.
Because you can play the shooting guard, you can play the power forward, and then you can use those when you get a position. You can use those against the other people that you're playing against. I mean, it's just you shouldn't worry yourself with that.
Right. Well, one of the points that Casey brings up often on this is, what if you get on the team and you want to play point guard and you're unhappy about that, but finally the coach gives you a chance, but you're number 4 in line to play. You're not probably going to play, and so by being, first of all, a basketball player first. And a basketball player is someone like Casey described who can play any of the positions and do an effective job of it. Then you become really valuable as a player.
Okay, we're going to answer 2 more questions, but before we leave, we want to leave you with one more question of the week.
Okay.
Our first question of the week is, where are you guys from? We want to know where you guys are from. Our second one is this. What is one thing that you need to work on this week to be a better basketball player?
Oh, cool.
Whether that's shooting, maybe that's free throws, maybe it's passing or defense. I don't know, but the police are coming for us right now. So let us know what is the one thing that you need to work on this week. Okay, a lot of people asking about tips for tryouts. I mean, go check out that how to make the team video. This one, do you see any that you want to answer? I mean,
Do what?
do you see any that you want to answer?
I'm looking and I don't see any.
This one is from Mikkel Menon, who says, should I attack the basket or shoot mid-range and 3 points?
You know,
I'm a shooting guard.
Okay, I love this one. Let me have this one,
Yeah,
Casey.
go for it.
One of the things that you have to remember is that you put yourself in an either-or situation. You're going to be shut down, and you're not going to be able to play very much. If you are a really good shooter, what do you think the coach on the other team is going to have his defensive people do? They're going to crowd you. And the more they crowd you, the less likely it is that you're going to be able to be that shooter that maybe you think you are. So we have to have another way to go. And the other way to go is this. I'm going to give you this little line. It's one we teach everybody. They crowd. In other words, that defensive player gets up on me. We're going to attack him. So it goes like this. They crowd, I go. And so you have to be able to have the ability to put the ball on the floor and go by them. That's how you really kind of take all the salt away from their defenses. They crowd, you go. They play off, you shoot. And so give yourself those options there.
Okay, here's a Cuppa who says, how to balance training with injuries. Should I sit out or balance it? Season starts in a month and a half. What you need to do is, if your injury is debilitating, you got to just take the time off.
You got to get well.
But you have to rest and recover on anything that you're hurt or injured on.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you need to check out completely from basketball. If you break your arm, work on your other arm. If you break your leg, work on some upper body stuff or sit in a chair dribbling. If you break both your legs, you can work on that.
Sure.
You just need to figure out a way around it. And of course, don't jeopardize your recovery on it. Just figure out a way.
Yeah.
This one is from Joseph Witcher. Says, our season starts in like a month, tryouts in like 3 weeks. I got to make sure my clay day is on. Make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, truly.
Check out our how to make the team video. Maybe that'll help you a little bit. Jorge Dominguez is saying, if you're new to ball, what is the most important to know or practice?
If you need what?
If you're new to basketball, what is the most important thing to know or practice?
You know, when the beginning, you need to work on all aspects and kind of generally shooting, ball handling, passing. And then maybe you get beyond that, you get into defense and other things. But those are the most critical items on offense.
Start slow and small.
Yeah.
And build up using the basic elements and fundamentals.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do is rush everything and try to make it happen outside of that.
Yeah.
Build up, and remember that footwork is the most important part of everything.
Absolutely important.
Let's see here. And this last question is from Tyrese Germain, who says, any tips for guarding stronger and taller players in the post? Rule number one.
Don't let them catch the ball.
Yeah.
The big guys in the post, they love to post you up and seal you behind them, and then they catch the ball and you're really done then. And so one of the things that we do when we're teaching our teams how to defend the post is that we want to take and front them if they are effective. If we know that they're going to be problems for us, we're going to play in front of them, and we're going to have an arm extended as far as we can. And the reason we want that arm extended is that tends to get the players who are trying to throw the ball in to wonder if they can get it over your hand and to their player. And so what you want to do is get right up in them with a forearm, and this hand is up in the air, and they will not be able to throw the ball in there effectively. Once they catch the ball, you're in trouble. You need help usually if they catch the ball.
Yeah, and use your body.
Yeah.
Again, you have the lower center of gravity. Get your butt into that guy. Make him work to get the basketball. Don't just give up. Being tall is not all the advantages that people make it out to be.
And those players get frustrated when they don't catch a basketball either. They know that they want it to come in because they know they're bigger than you and they're stronger than you. But all of a sudden, there you are, and you're this wall in front of them, and they can't catch the basketball. They can be pretty pissy once in a while when that's happening to them.
Or people don't want to get any contact going on them either. So, just give them a little contact and do all those other things.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you guys so much for all your questions.
Thank
if
you,
we
guys.
didn't get to you guys today, it's not because we don't like you, it's because we just ran out of time. You can send us your questions during the week. You can, maybe find the best YouTube video of ours that kind of coincides with what you're talking about. You can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Send us, anything on all of our Shot Science platforms. We're Shot Science and everything. We'd love to have you guys on everything and talking to us. And
did you say where we're located, like on YouTube?
Yeah, hopefully they're watching us on YouTube. We're youtube.com/shotscience. If you search shot signs for pretty much anything, we're there.
Yeah.
And we'd love to have you guys. And check out our Wilson X basketball. Check those out. And we will talk to you guys next time, 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday.
Thanks for joining us. We enjoy it so much.
See you guys later.
Bye-bye.